Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Thursday morning. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well this season. I have a quick word for you. Tap in. Happy Thursday, guys. So my landscaper is here, so you may hear all the noise, and it has knocked my allergies off. So I'm over here sounding like a whole moose. So please, please bear with your girl while I get this recording out. So I had a good sis who emailed me and said that she's lost desire for the promise, but she's kind of confused. She don't know if it's God who removed the desire because the promise was never from God, or is it something she's done? Like could she be in the middle of sin, or something else where she feels like God has went quiet and that's why the desire is no longer there, and so on and so on. And in fact, one of you guys actually commented in the comment section, I think it was last week, and you said something in reference to God have removed the desire from you and you are actually okay with it. You're actually okay with it. See, this can be very, very confusing. And again, this is why it's so important to be sure you are in alignment spiritually so you can hear whatever it is that the Holy Spirit have to say to you, because the Holy Spirit will confirm to you the Holy Spirit will give you revelation, and typically God will use people to confirm, but you have to already know in your spirit what you feel. Your spirit won't lie to you, but a lot of the times we miss what our spirit is downloading to us, because there's so many different distractions. That can just be distractions of the world. That can be distraction of you're too busy getting your hands in it, trying to make certain things happen. You're refusing to surrender completely the promise. It could be that you're going around and you're trying to get confirmation from too many people, meaning you're asking your pastor, you're asking this person, you're asking your friend, you can be in a place that you feel so desperate that you need an answer that you're literally seeking answers from any and everybody. And you have to be very, very careful who you are allowing to pour into your spirit. You have to be very careful who you are revealing certain promises that God has made to you, unless God has been very clear that it's now time for you to go get wise counsel, etc., etc. But your spirit you will feel in your spirit. God downloads it into your spirit. He needs you to feel it in your spirit. People typically will be your confirmations, but your spirit, if you're in alignment, your spirit will already tell you what you need to know. Does that mean you don't need the wise counsel? No, because this is a whole process. So there are going to be times where things truly seem confusing, especially when you're in a season of stillness, especially when you felt like God has went silent on you for whatever reason. That is the time the enemy will really pound in your head that you heard God wrong. You were on the wrong path. All these things. And it would make logical sense to you because you see nothing happening in the physical realm, right? So here's the thing. Again, you got to go to God. God will make it clear to you what season you're in and what is going on. Well, if he chooses to tell you, because sometimes you can ask 1,000 times, honey, God ain't paying you no attention for whatever reason, right? But, okay, you guys know I'm perspective, right? Different perspectives. So the first perspective very well could be that you heard God wrong. And this is one of the most difficult things for people to hear, especially if you've been on the path that you felt was always correct. And all of a sudden, there's very, very clear revelation that you actually heard God wrong. That can be a very daunting, hurtful feeling. But the blessing in that, if that happens to be you, and stay tuned now, because that may not be your situation. There may be another reason why God took the desire. I'm going to speak about that. But I'm speaking about the group of people that is clear as day now that you heard God wrong. It's clear as day. There's no confusion. You know that you've heard God wrong. The wrong person prophesy? Wait a minute. Prophesy? It's too much going on. The landscaper is walking across the window. I can hear his noise, honey. It's a whole zoo up over here, right? The wrong person has prophesied to you, right? You went seeking answers from non-reliable sources. In fact, you may have even gone to try to dabble in some foolishness, right? Trying to get answers from witches and warlocks, right? Because you're so desperate to get a word. So you allow the wrong person to pour into your spirit, right? So it was something that you initially wanted, not something that God downloaded to you, something you initially wanted, but because you wanted it that bad, you, out of your own sheer determination, did everything in your power to make it happen. That means getting ahead of God. That means going in and seeking counsel from somebody that you know is a whole witch or just whatever. And so you opened up your spirit, which then in turn allowed these people to prophesy and give you things that tickle your fancy. That tickle your fancy because it sounds good and it's truly what you, all caps, you wanted. And now you're on this path, or you were on this journey chasing something that truly was never from God, but because you allowed a familiar spirit to get up in there because you opened up your spirit to the wrong person, right? So at some point you got tired. You got tired because it's been 15 years now, just saying. 15 years now, and it's like God is making it more clear. Like, I feel like in this season, for a lot of people, if God has not given you new revelation and insight about the next step, about your destiny or whatever, just keep holding on. But I think a lot of people are going to get revelation, clear revelation, that either you were on the wrong path, you are on the right path, and you are to stay still, or you could have been on the wrong path. I'm sorry, you could be on the right path, but something has happened on the other side where it's just not submitting to the will of God, because everybody have free will, all that stuff. Certain things are just not, and God has hardened his heart against the other side, and now God is going to redirect you to a new path, a new destiny, things like that. But you got to hear from God on that. All right, so the beautiful part about knowing clearly that you've heard God wrong is this is a time where God can now really take and get you on the right path. So whatever desire you had, whatever dream you had, whatever that thing you was chasing, and now you were frustrated and you were ready to give up and just all this other stuff, you're in depression, you got anxiety. Okay, now the beautiful thing, if you allow your heart to break, because listen, at the end of the day, that's still grief. You got to grieve something that you truly were going after, and you really thought you heard God correctly. That's a grieving process within itself. You have to grieve the fact that the thing that you really thought you were on the right path to is not going to manifest through God. On the flip side, guys, he's getting closer and closer, so please bear with me. On the flip side, you could very well be on the right path, but God took the desire temporary. Why? There's a number of reasons. One, it may only be the only way he could have gotten your hands up off of it, because you were too busy, again, trying to make it happen, trying to play God, right? You were making a mess out of things. You're going to mess around and ruin your entire destiny because you're trying to play God, and God had been clear to you over and over to sit your behind down somewhere. Stop putting your hands in things, right? I need more time over here. There's things I'm trying to work out, and you're right there trying to make it happen. You're questioning God. You go sit down. 2 days later, you're peeping around the corner. You're trying to figure out, God, what's going on? Do you need my help? Did I hear you wrong? And God was like, I've given you 30,000 confirmations already, right? So no, you didn't hear me wrong. But you're going to really mess up some things because you won't be still. Okay, some people will be obedient to be still, right? But sometimes human nature, fight or flight, you got to know what's going on, right? Just let me know what's going on. So some people are mature enough where when I'm definitely there now. I wasn't always there, but if I hear God tell me to be still, I can be still. Where before I got to help you out, God. I got to help you out, God. Well, for some people who are still struggling in that area, God will take the desire in order to get you to take your hands up off of it. Then once he do what he needs to do, whatever he's working on, it could be you, could be the other side, could be both. Then he'll bring that desire back. This is why too. You've had times where that desire was not as potent throughout the process. There were times where the desire was, it seemed like you would eat and sleep. That thing was up in your spirit. It would literally not leave you. And then there were other times where the desire wasn't strong, and it kind of like you could truly walk away from it and just go do your own thing. And like you had the mindset, right, of it is what it is. I know it is, but it is what it is. I don't have time to like really worry about it. God to do it whenever God does it, right? So that desire can fluctuate. So don't get it twisted to think that if God has silence and desire, that desire can't return. It can fluctuate, but sometimes God has to remove the desire in order to really get you to be in alignment to receive the manifestation from God. And lastly, what was the other thing I said I was going to talk about? You heard God wrong. God took the desire. Oh my goodness, it was something else. I thought I said I had 3 things. I'm not sure. But what's popping up in my spirit right now, and I just have to flow with the spirit to trust and believe that whatever the other thing was, if it's important, it'll come back. I'll comment and I'll pin that. But for some reason, the spirit of rejection is in my spirit right now. Excuse me. A lot of people have a spirit of rejection and they do not know what it is. They're trying to discover, why is it that you constantly self-sabotage? Meaning God can be bringing blessings in your life that's from God. It's like everything you've asked God for, everything is perfect. And then all of a sudden you're doing everything to ruin it. You're starting the arguments. You're making accusations. Like nothing is even going on at all. But you're creating these things in your mind, and the enemy is also putting thoughts in your mind, and now you're like self-sabotaging. Now, like, okay, something's too good to be true. Don't call me no more. I don't like you. I don't even like you. I think you're a counterfeit, right? The devil done sent you up over here. And like nothing is even going on. It's all in your mind. And the enemy is constantly downloading things into your mind because he already knows that you are dealing with a spirit of... So I told you guys, right? I have a big mouth, but I'm like very, very scary. So as I'm talking to you, the landscaper came from outside the house, right? He walked by the patio, but his weeder, I guess the weed machine, whatever that thing is, it came first. Like he was behind it, and all I saw was the head of the weed thing first. I couldn't even see him. You couldn't tell me that wasn't a whole a whole bird trying to get up in this door, honey. Oh my goodness. But you're starting different arguments and all that stuff. So self-sabotage, meaning God has released something to you. It literally is from God, but you're doing everything to sabotage it because of your own spirit of rejection. Listen, you could have a spirit of rejection that stem, right, and still in you from when you were 5 years old and even younger. You had a narcissist parent. You had a parent who gave you up because they were crackheads and they didn't want you, but they raised the other children. You were the only child given to the auntie to raise, but your mom and dad raised everybody else. You were a child that came from, Papa was a Rolling Stone. He was married, and you were a child that came out of wedlock. Is that out of wedlock? Yes, it's out of wedlock. I don't know. But he wanted nothing to do with you. In fact, you would see him and he couldn't even speak to you, honey. You would see pictures as a child of him and his family together during holidays. And here you are, a whole zoo, right? Not your fault, but that spirit of rejection was literally planted early on. In school, maybe you were the chubby girl. It's a whole zoo going on between the landscaper, between Tippy barking, it's a whole zoo going on this morning, honey. But I'm going to press through this thing, right? Between you being the chubby child in school, and no one chose you for the physical education team and sports and all that stuff, right? That first crush that you had, that first heartbreak told you weren't good enough, right? The person who divorced you, that sibling rivalry, that sibling who's a narc. There's so many different areas. We can go on and on and on and on about how that seed of rejection was planted. However it was planted, you were rejected. You may have people thought you had pretty privilege, meaning all the girls in the school disliked you because they thought like all the little boys wanted you, or even as an adult, right? Them chicks side-eyeing you, or they're creating rumors because they think you coming to steal a show, and they think you coming to steal a show, honey, and you ain't got none of the man to think about, right? So it's like they rejected you, or even if they didn't blatantly reject you, like it's still that feeling of not being accepted. A lot of the times God allowed you to experience that stuff early on because he know using you going forward, right? You're going to be rejected even more. Right? Jesus was rejected. So he is preparing you, or he prepared you early on to understand that when it comes down to rejection, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Instead, it has to do with the other person or the gift that's in you. Your light disturbed darkness. So you're misunderstood, all that stuff. But a lot of people have not came to the conclusion that it's not you. So however that seed was planted, you're still thinking that there's something wrong with you. So you refuse to shoot your shot, right? Because you feel like you're going to get rejected. Or you refuse to take a step out on faith and you know God told you clear as day to start the business, start the ministry, start the YouTube channel, do this, do that. But it's that fear factor because you feel like no one wants to hear what you have to say. You're not good enough. That is one of the main things that the enemy will use for you to miss and abort your destiny, is to make you feel that you're not good enough. And what better way to do that than to plant a seed of rejection? So a lot of people are also in this season of stillness because God is working on certain flaws, certain character and integrity issues, but also closing different seeds, those seeds of abandonment, those seeds of rejections, things like that. Because the things that are coming to you, you have to be whole in order to receive them. Because why would God release something to us if we're going to self-sabotage? Especially if you've ever encountered a narcissist. You're going to have to be built from the ground up, because the narcissist literally changed your entire identity. Well, those seeds of rejections will too, because you were never that person to begin with. It made you a people pleaser. It made you defensive, right? It made you such and such, such and such. So you were literally living an entire identity was never yours. So now in this season, God has to literally rebuild you. And he can only do that when he gets you to a place of fully surrendering. So that's popping up now, that could be another reason why you take the desire. Because you know when the desire is there, you're living and you're breathing the promise. So if he removed the desire, then he can really work on those wounds and work on those areas. Because what we tend to do as people, we keep masking the wounds. We want to keep masking them by certain things: staying busy, working too much, porn, drugs, alcohol, food, sweets, all this stuff, just constantly putting yourself in other people's business because it keeps you busy, right? Because you don't want to sit with yourself. So this is too why a lot of people are literally the rug is snatch. The rug is snatch. So you have no choice but to sit with yourself. God is not allowing people to come to your defense. He's shutting down relationships. You feel like everybody's rejecting and abandoning you, but truly it's God who's trying to get you to sit still so he can work on these wounds that has happened since childhood or early adulthood, where he can really rebuild you. But it feels like people are rejecting you, right? It feels like you're lonely, but this is where he needs you. The next season, the next step, the next directions are God-ordained blessings, God-ordained people, connections, things like that. So whatever it is that you're going through, allow God to just do what he do without fighting the process. Because see, when you're you'll know when you're fighting the process, because it literally feels as if you're swimming against the current. Like seriously, there's a lot of tension. You're swimming against the current. When you are surrendered, especially fully surrendered, like you can truly take your hands up off of that thing and say, you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. Like, it is what it is. I'm not trying to make anything happen. Whatever God's going to allow to happen, it truly is what it is. But you can only get to that posture once you've bumped your head one too many times, once it's a process. Everybody's different. It's a process, but it's your process. But allow God to do what God do. Wait on this. I think this is what I wanted to speak about earlier. I think whatever you do, if you don't have clear directions, do not make a move. If you don't have, see, anytime God is ready for you to make a move, if he's ready for you to relocate, if he's ready for you to leave that job, if he's ready for you to leave that marriage, and I'm not saying anything about that, I'm just saying, if he's ready for you to leave that relationship, whatever it is that he's ready for you to do, he's going to make it so clear. It may not even be a one-shot thing like he said something one time. Sometimes it will be he'll snatch the rug and your edges, you got to go. You have no choice. But he will keep confirming it for you. He will keep drying things up for you. He will keep allowing people to hurt you over and over, multiple people. And no, God is not a God of confusions, but God will use some things to get you on the right course, point blank, period. But he will start to make it so clear to you on what the next step is. It's time to go. It's time to do that. He has to make it clear. But you can block that by keep rejecting or keep saying or keep ignoring the convictions, even though you know God is saying something, because you really don't want to do it, right? You know your family is toxic. You know that relationship is toxic, but you really don't want to start over because you're comfortable, because you're probably toxic too in the meantime, right? So he's made it clear, but you're refusing it. But if you feel as if you don't have a clear direction, be still, because God, again, may bring that wherever he took you to, wherever he has you at, that desire may return. But if you're gone, right, the enemy will literally try to get you to leave and abort the very place that God told you to go. That's where your destiny is going to be fulfilled, right? If you are waiting and you are in a posture where you are at a standstill, you feel like you have absolutely no answer. God is not answering you. You can't go left. You can't go right. You're thinking about going back, but there's nothing even back to go to, but you can't see just be still. Do not make a move unless it's clear as day. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.